தங்கமுன்னு ஊரு உன்ன மேல தூக்கி வைக்கும், திண்டுக்கல் போட்டு 2 மாட்டி பூட்டி வைக்கும். விட்டு வாடி ராசாத்தி, உன்ன நீயே காப்பாத்தி. ராசாத்தி ராசாத்தி ராசாத்தி, வாடி நீ வாடி அடவாடி ராசாத்தி, வாடி ராசாத்தி.
Hello all and welcome to Direct from Heart. Hearing that song, I'm sure you must have thought that our guest today is a singer. Well, she is a singer and in fact is a part of a band called Mottamadi. However, what interests me more about Shivaranjani is that she is a social entrepreneur, meaning she is into social service, trying to uplift the poorest of poor from the villages of Tamil Nadu. A social entrepreneur is somebody who has a vision just like any other entrepreneur. The only difference is here the vision is of uplifting a particular community in a particular segment and trying to channelize resources of all kinds and planning up the process of upliftment of this community, and that is exactly what Shivaranjani and her team of Kanavu and Sura does. What interests me more about Shivaranjani is that she has done all this at a very young age. She is young, beautiful, knowledgeable, highly talented, and with all this mixture, she is also somebody who is very empathetic towards her society and wants to uplift her community. She works for people of a community in the remotest villages of Kadalur district. She is born in the city of Chennai, and unlike many of her peer group, she did not dream of going to pubs and parties, nor did she dream about accumulating as much of wealth as possible. Instead, whatever little savings she had with her, she invested on uplifting her community. Indeed, for me, Shivaranjani is an inspiration. She lives in a rural area in a village where there is no proper network. What makes this video even more interesting and challenging for me as well is that for this small clipping of 40 minutes, we had worked really hard for around maybe 4 to 5 hours. Appreciate the patience that Shivaranjani displayed during this interview, because it wasn't easy for her. We could not have a video call because of the interruption that we had in the internet connection. And finally, we were just working on sounds, and she was recording her part of the video and I was recording my part of the video. And this video was recorded almost around 2 to 3 months back. She couldn't share this video with me online because she didn't have the internet connection. It took her so long to share the video with me because she had shared it only once she came to Chennai, and after so many days I had to rework on the introduction today. So that is what makes this video very interesting, and that is why I call her a young inspiration. I'm sure you'd be interested in knowing more about Shivaranjani. So let's meet Shivaranjani. A very warm welcome to a face from the crowd, Shivaranjani. Very glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, my pleasure.
The name of your organization, I think your trust, is very interesting. Kanavu, which means actually dream, I think, Shivaranjani. So whose dream was it? How did this whole thing happen? Was it your dream or whose dream was it actually?
Yeah, so we have a very interesting beginning story, right? So Kanavu means dreams in Tamil, like how you rightly said. So I think when two of our co-founders, Nisha and Gautam, they were part of Teach for India Chennai, and they moved to rural Kadalur here.
Right.
So the village that we stay in, we started off with work is called Kannarapetai. So that's where they were housed. And because of Teach for India background, they've started working with teachers and teacher development as the primary focus in the first year. So that's when they hosted, something called Kanava Camp, which is like a very short sort of a 2-day or a 3-day program that happens between one term and another term. When I refer to term, it's the school year, it's the school academic year, and when it's the vacation time, teachers undergo a certain training program. And what they did, interestingly, was they opened out this space, this rural space, for urban volunteers to come in and share knowledge with teachers and mutually learn, right? So that was my introduction to Kanavu. Back then it was a project, it was like a short term or a yearly basis. They used to revise goals and end up doing that. So that's how the term came about, because it comes from the belief that everybody's dreams has to come true, no matter whatever circumstance they were born into or they're growing up in. So that's where it was born, the word was born. We believe that any individual's dream has to come true, and we hope that becomes true for people of India.
That's wonderful, actually, Shivranjani. In fact, at a very young age, I would say you have picked up this thought in you that everybody's dream has to come true, which is, I think, very, very appreciable. And I think a lot of people out there need to really learn from you. I think in the aspect of giving back to the society. So now, Shivaranjani, what exactly does Kanavu do?
So Kanavu, like I said, it started off by thinking that there has to be betterment and education that has to happen in these 5 schools for the children. So Kanavu partners with ASEFA, Association of Sarvaseva Farms. This particular organization has been around for over 50 years now, and their Kadalur wing has 5 schools on the Kadalur coast. So Kanavu has partnered to work with these schools and for the betterment of these schools. So we started off by saying let's work on teacher development, and we'll chart out a certain paths the teacher will take, because the belief is that if the teacher can deliver excellent education, children can get holistic education. So that's how it started, and slowly we came to realize that the schools as a whole have to be worked on, because the schools need a certain resource balance to be able to deliver the holistic education. So we slowly moved towards bringing in resources for the schools and their functioning and their balance itself. So that's how it progressed, and it went to that point. So right now we have teacher development, we do HM development, we also look at school operations and how better can we do that for our children. So what key additions Kanavu has done to this region, to these schools, is that we definitely hold spaces where all the 5 schools can come together, as we believe in the idea of as a collective we learn a lot more than what we would if we were alone. So there are spaces that are specifically set up for all of our teachers, all of our HMs, all of our students to come together and have common experiences, because they are all a part of this region. So such activities are Kanavu camps that are held for teacher training. There is Lit Fest, Sports and Literary Fest for students to give them extracurricular opportunities. So what also branched off as Kanavu's concrete pillar is the community development piece, which came from the schools themselves. Like one of the PTA meetings, a mother came up to Nisha and said, we want to be able to support our children's education, so can you please upskill us on a certain skill, so that we can take that up and we can have an income through that. So that's how Sura was born. So Sura is one of our concrete community development areas, where we work with the women's collective. This collective stitches cotton bags, from surukupais to earphone pouches, travel pouches to laptop sleeves today. So what started off with one product, we actually do diverse 50 products today, and we've adapted to COVID as well, doing cotton masks. So the collective is seeming to progress in a way that they are quickly learning new skills. They've set up a village tailoring center in their own village and operating remotely right now. So that's a wing of our community development, where we believe that women collectives, if they are units of change, then they bring about change in their own village in very direct and indirect ways. So these two have been the concrete areas of work of Kanavu in this region.
Okay, great. So in fact, Sura is a child, I think, of Kanavu, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, a byproduct of Kanavu. In a way, you are actually bringing in holistic development to the community that you are in at the moment.
Yeah, so what Kanavu corely believes is we want to create leaders because we will not exist in this region after a certain time. We are anyway outsiders. So we want to build leadership skills in our people, say a child or a teacher or HM or the women who are a part of the collectives, so that they can solve their own problems. And like inequity exists, and the four of us or Kanavu by itself can't solve for all forms of inequity. So we believe that what's sustainable is to build those behaviors, to build those mindsets that cater to their own leadership, and if they become better as individuals, they will definitely think about their community and solve problems for their community.
That's brilliant, actually, quite far-sightedness, I would say, because I think rarely people think about what next, what will happen after we move away from this place. So that's brilliant, Shivranjani. Now, what is your background, Shivaranjani? What is your educational qualification? What kind of a family background do you come from, which made you actually think about all these things at this young age?
Yeah, so thank you for your kind words. I think there is one thing that I heard from my parents growing up was we want you to be not about you have to earn so much, you have to become an engineer or a doctor, but what I've heard certainly from my childhood for my parents to articulate is we'll be extremely happy if you're a very good human being. So that's something that repeatedly rings in my ears every day when I try to become a better human being. So I think this whole aspect of giving back or something comes from that particular awareness and an aspiration to be a better person every single day. Briefly take you through my background, I think in 12th standard, like a lot of us, with the amount of exposure and awareness that I had, I thought because I loved mechanics, I would take up mechanical engineering, hoping it was full of mechanics. And then soon I realized once I joined engineering that it actually doesn't compose a whole lot of mechanics, but a lot of other things. But I certainly liked through the academic journey of college, and I was drawn to arts also a little bit. At the end of the college, I realized that I certainly loved learning a lot, learning anything, and if posed with a challenge, I would love that, and I would really take on the challenge on myself, learn and get better, solve the challenge. But what was really missing was I didn't feel very strongly towards continuing in the engineering stream, and that's when I came across Teach for India organization, and I really connected with the word teach because I feel like even in my school, I used to experience my teachers to be very powerful beings who can shape the future of the nation. So that's the connotation I had with respect to teachers. And so an organization which is new and which is making teaching so fascinating and so adorable, I think really made me very curious to be a part of the organization, to be a part of the movement. Took up the Teach for India opportunity to be a full-time teacher in a government school in Saidapet, and I taught grade 7 and 8 girls. So which taught me a lot of things about education in this country and the landscape itself and what it takes to be a teacher. What does it mean to be a change agent or even try to change certain aspects of what a child learns and who all a child learns from. So it was a very interesting journey, and so through the fellowship I realized that it's not just children, but any individual has potential. And when I moved to moved to this Kanavu camp, and I worked briefly with this women's collective Sura for 2 to 3 days with them, which is when I realized that they have immense potential, but what they needed at that point was a guidance, was a coach who will actually give them the sense of possibility that they can have dreams, and to be able to take them through that path of this is my dream, this is where I am today, and how can we get there, and when do we get there. So that seems pretty interesting for me, and that's when I made the shift of moving from Chennai to Kadalur to be able to work with this women's collective.
Okay, that's great. But for initially, Shivranjani, how did your parents react to the fact that you wanted to move to a smaller town like Kadalur, that too all by yourself? I think normally Chennai is a very conservative place, and not many parents would like the idea of their daughter, setting up her own establishment in a different place, and that too more so, when it's from a rural place that you want to go back to. So, what was your parents' reaction when you told them about all this?
Yeah. So, I mean, this make me quite nostalgic. So, when I told them in the beginning that I want to go stay in a rural place, I think I've always told them that I want to be able to live in rural for some phase of my life. And along with the women that I wanted to work with, this came in very beautifully. So I made the shift. I think I'm pretty lucky. I'm pretty blessed in the sense that my parents were extremely supportive, and they would never like question my decisions if it has a very good rationale, and if they knew why I was making that shift. So my mom specifically, she likes working with underprivileged communities, and she's doing her bit right there, being in the city. She definitely understands, and she has a good rapport with me to think that she was so if not anything, they were really proud that I'm making this shift, and I'm putting efforts into working with rural India and creating some shifts here. Yeah. So I think what's been a stronger support system for me is to have teams that are extremely empathetic and supportive. I mean, to mention that briefly, I mentioned that during college days I was into arts, and I have been in a musical band since then. It's been 6 years now. So what I recognized is being part of supporting teams. Parents is definitely a huge factor. They are, I mean, I personally weigh in their opinions and decisions into my decisions as well. But beyond that, what has been supporting to balance life and work is definitely having supportive teams who really understand what your dreams are, what are all the roles that you play, and being able to support each other on that front, I think has been very helpful. So be it on my music journey, the team at Kanavu really supports me to aspire and pursue my music journey. And my musical band definitely understands the work that I do in Kanavu. They both support in terms of direct and indirect ways. Yeah, so definitely parents, but having a larger ecosystem is helping me do this work very holistically.
Definitely. I understand. It's brilliant actually that you're also a good singer. Yeah, I think I have heard a few of your songs on Facebook, the ones that you had posted on Facebook, and they really sounded very nice. You have a very melodious voice, I should say.
Right, thank you. I've had my own journey with my voice. I really lost it during the time that I taught in those 2 years. So teaching definitely demands like loudness, a lot of throw in the voice. So along the journey for that, I actually lost my voice, and I've been working to revive my voice.
I'm actually surprised and amazed, Shivranjani, seeing you at a very young age, being so passionate about serving the people, so passionate about, I don't know, you're so empathetic at such a young age, where at your age, people think more probably having fun in their life, going to parties and pubs and, spending their time on, tours, holidaying, and stuff like that. And you seem to be an entirely different lot altogether. Yeah, that's really very nice.
Thank you. So I always tell my friends my way to work involves going over a river through the bridge. It involves looking at farms. It involves looking at those small groups of people under a huge mango tree or a huge banyan tree. I think that is something you will see when you go on vacation or when you aspire to be in such instances. For me, it's a weekly thing. It's a weekly affair to be able to see all of that on a village road. I think that keeps me grounded. So I definitely don't miss sort of a vacation or a green trip because I live in one, I work with one. Yeah.
Absolutely, you're right. Actually, so one should be able to understand what it is actually, to be even able to appreciate the atmosphere you're in, and be contented. Not contented, I would say. In fact, to be happy. Doing what you're doing is something that is, I think, is the comfort that very few people have, I would say, isn't it? Because we all run after something. Many of the youngsters these days, I think, run after money, run after corporate goals, and so many other things. I think this is really very commendable. Okay, now in the initial days, Shivaranjani, I hope you're able to hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, in the initial days, Shivranji, when you actually probably shifted to Kadalur, with this idea of, with this Kanavu in your mind about Kanavu, so what exactly were the challenges that you faced? I mean, was it easy to probably bring in the resources, especially money? What kind of challenges did you face? Whether it's in terms of monetary challenges or in terms of bringing in human resources, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah. So I think to answer this, I'll have to give a little bit of context about Kadalur itself. So the area, the villages or the cluster of villages that we work with, mostly the people who come from here have an occupation in fishing or in farming. And so post tsunami, definitely this picture has shifted, and a lot of them have become factory workers, daily wage workers, contract job laborers. So what we see is definitely they struggle day in and day out to even feed themselves. So there are a lot of families that have enrolled their children into our schools who are struggling to even have the next meal of the day. So that's the kind of communities I'm talking about. So it's definitely certainly been very challenging, in the sense that one of the first challenges that I faced, I remember, was to think that this is so geographically cut off. Like, we had to add Kannarpete on the Google map. It was not there before, and all the other villages are yet to be added. So definitely for external people, experts, educationalists to even recognize this place as a place that has potential, and for them to come and engage with the space, interact with the space, have mutual learnings, all of that was a challenge because they wouldn't know the space. And only because it's geographically very distant from the city. So every time we've talked to experts or people who want to come over, we've always said it's just 4 hours from Chennai, and then the perspective shifts to think, oh, is it? And then we say it's an hour away from Pondicherry. Pondicherry is a well-known territory. So people can relate to that, and then say, okay, after all, it's not that distant. The village is not that far off. When I come to Pondi, I can make a 1 hour drive and visit you guys and go. So I think we had to ease into people coming and visiting us over here. And one huge challenge was that to say that being in a very geographically distant area, how do we bring in maximum number of people to experience this space? Like the rock wall that you're seeing behind me was built like 15 years ago, and this was built to keep in mind that this is going to be visited by a lot of people, and a lot of thought has gone into architecture of this school. So definitely those who visit, they leave changed, and something about this space changes them. So we've definitely had challenges with respect to that. And the second thing that personally I felt as a challenge was to balance between the distance that I felt from my own people. So like, say, visits to Chennai would typically be monthly ones, not more than that. And even visiting friends used to be like it can be like a weekly thing when I was in Chennai, but not anymore. So a lot of shifts with respect to how I connect with my own people. Being in a village, being far away from them, was a personal struggle that I went through. It was quite challenging. It is quite lonely. It can get lonely in this campus. But to maintain the balance between connecting people, finding new ways to connect with them, has been a personal challenge for me. And with respect to bringing money into this region, right? So definitely what we've seen is if there is value in whatever we are giving, and that matches with the needs of the community, definitely there is scope for us to bring in money into this region. So one primary thing that we've sensed is, if we have conviction in the work that we do, we can definitely, there are accelerators, there are incubators out there that will support us and fund us. So, but it is a very tough game. We need to have a lot of representations in different networks and get feedback in order to get better at what we're asking for, what money we're asking, and what is it for that we're asking. So 3 years down the line, we have definitely gotten better than before, but in the first year it was an extreme struggle. So we started off with using our own internal reserves that we had, and once that started depleting is when we realized, oh, we need money, and we need money to sustain here for the project itself. So these 5 schools, like I said, the profile of the parents who admit their children in these schools are in such a way that they are definitely still not a monthly wage earning members. So what happens is they're mostly in debt. they're in one debt or the other, and to pay for one debt they take another debt, and it's a compounded effect of debts. So what we had to do was to support children with certain tuition fee for a certain year as well. So we've had like different kinds of ways to get money into this region, to say that can you sponsor a child for 1 year, can you sponsor teachers with their stationery kits so that they can plan better for their classes, or say for we believe in holistic education for children, so we have spaces that are apart from academic and curricular activities as well. So there's something called Slit Fest that happens, Sports and Literary Fest. So for that particular fest to happen, we had to raise money. So we've done event based raising as well, to say can you donate for this particular event so that children can get certificates, they can be fed, and etc. So we've done different aspects of funding. We've done crowdfunding as well. The campus over here needed underground electrification because it was getting very unsafe during rainy days for children to come to school. So we did a quick, because it involves safety, we did a quick crowdfunding in our first year for this. So we've done different sources of funding. To put them in a very brief list, I think we've done crowdfunding, we've reached out to friends and families and some smaller NGOs who can do the fundraising for us. And third, definitely our biggest reserve comes from incubators and accelerators.
Okay, that sounds such an interesting story, Shivranjani. In fact, I thought I was actually watching a movie. I could visualize all that you were saying, and that was really brilliant of you guys to set up the entire thing. Not easy, I would say. I really appreciate the way you have channelized your passion and your empathy towards service. That's great.
Thank you.
So, Shivranjani, what is the best part about taking up social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so what I love about my work is that it helps me get better every day. And it's rooted in something that's beyond me, because it promotes a lot of reflective thinking, to say today these are the actions that I did, and could I have done it any better, what was good about today, what do I want to continue for tomorrow. So there's a certain reflective thinking that the work itself gives me, so that also helps me in developing myself as a person. And what drives me to not slack and say there are some days where I feel like, but I don't want to solve this, but I'm very tired, but I don't want to be doing this right now, because what's one thing that's extremely challenging about this work is that results are not like you can't see impact right away. It's the impact is definitely rooted in the future, in some day that you were only dreaming about today. So given that's the case, I think what's the driver every single day matters a lot in this work, and I'm very glad. And what I love about it is I get better for something that's beyond me, for the communities that I work with, and I know that when I get better, I work better and they get better. So that's something I love. And what I also love about this is that I live in, say, in rural, and personally for me, whenever I make a visit to the village, I learn so many new things about the village, so many stories. I understand the communities and their state of affairs a lot better, and I love connecting with people from different backgrounds in life, and I enjoy that diversity. So I think best part about my work is living in rural and being able to visit those villages and understand them, because for me, even after if I live for 10 years in this place, I will still be an outsider, and there'll be so much more to know about these spaces. That is also an exciting part of this work for me. And thirdly, the challenges itself. As much as during the challenge, when I'm going through the challenge, like say every day or a certain week of the month, I feel extremely extremely questioned and conflicted about my abilities. Will I be able to do this? Do I have the capability to do this? Do I know how to do this? And things like that. When I look back with every challenge or the milestones that Kanavu has established for this region, I think it just makes me wonder so much, because so many people's efforts has gone into making that milestone come true. So the aspect of challenge itself actually excites me about this work.
Great, great. Wonderful, Shivranjani. In fact, it is so nice to hear all this. It's like, I don't know. I think this is the first time I'm meeting somebody who is into social service, and it actually touches my heart a lot. And I think this is one of the best conversations that I have had so far, Shivranjani, because somewhere down the line it touches your soul. you know. And everybody's, I think, has this in their mind, I would say, that you should give back to the society. But a lot of us struggle because we don't know how to go about. Okay,
Yeah.
there may be a lot of people out there who actually have this drive to do something for the society, but they're all clueless as to how to go about. One thing is, we always fear that we don't have the resources, so how do we get to? So is there a possibility that a social entrepreneur, or maybe a person who wants to serve the society, can do even when they have no money in their hands? So is the drive alone enough? What would you say from your experience?
I think who you are as a person adds value to your idea or what opportunity you want to work on. So even if you start with absolutely no resources, like monetary resources per se, there are opportunities, there are ways to hone yourself to be able to get those resources, is what I believe. Because as an organization, like typically if you see in the social landscape, organizations that have been been around for 2 decades, say there's Barefoot College, and then there's Grameen Bank. So if you look at these organizations, they were definitely started by people who've come from abroad, who've had a lot of resources, and they invest into this and start off an initiative. But Kanavu is unique in the sense that we all started off when we were working. So it's not like we have a reserve, we're sitting on reserve. So bringing resources becomes very fluid. It becomes about, we need to do this work right now, where do we get resources from? So I don't think resource will be a constraint to start a particular venture. I think what matters a lot more is to understand there's a lot of avenues from which you can channelize resources. So as a first step, getting to know such organizations, reading up about them or visiting them, volunteering with them, understanding how they function definitely gives a lot of confidence to put together an idea for a certain community and ask for resources. I think as of today, there's a lot of channels in which resources exist, and it's just about our capability to get it into our idea and for our opportunity. So I don't think that's a stopping aspect at all for getting down and working.
So now, after 3 years, you have probably come to know about all the avenues, all the channels to get your resources from. So that puts you in a much better position.
Definitely.
Now, you talked about Sura, and you also spoke about a few products that Sura manufactures. I mean, the people at Sura manufacture. In fact, my word to all the viewers here would be to actually purchase from Sura something that they can, so that they can contribute in an indirect way to the work that Shivranjani and her team is doing over there, the Kanavitu team is doing over there. So request all of you to purchase, be it masks or handbags or whatever they have. Do you have a website, Shivranjani?
Yes. So Sura is on Instagram. We operate out of social media, both Facebook and Instagram. I can share the handles as well. So you can look at our work, follow us, and be updated about our work.
Please do. We have the, I think, list of products on the website. Please visit the website so that you can be indirectly of help in your own small way. You can contribute to the development of a village and a community. So that would be my personal request to all the viewers. And coming back to Shivranjani, you were talking also about creating leaders. So what is your vision for the future? Because you said you are not going to stay here for too long. So, what exactly is your vision for your own future, and what do you look forward to doing in the future?
So I have stuff in bits and pieces. I definitely see myself working in a tribal area, which I believe is the most underserved in the nation. So definitely one of those regions, like say in the northwest or in central India. So I definitely see myself working in a shorter stretch. I also want to continue living in rural. So and definitely deepen my understanding about what all women collectives can do, and deepen my belief towards how can they become agents of change. And for me, I think my biggest inspiration when I see is were two things. One is a sustainable village model, which was shared by Mr. Ilongo, who's gone all over the world talking about a circular economy model for villages. So self-sustaining villages, how a cluster of villages can sustain itself without any, import or export, and they can sustain by themselves. I think that pushes me to think what is the scale I want to operate with. And secondly, I want to continue living in rural, and one of my concrete inspirations is different brands that actually make these cotton products. And for Sura especially, it's quite inspiring to see how many collectives do that. And recently, how Kerala adapted to COVID situation using its self-help groups all over the state. So all of this excites me, and I definitely see myself working in the community development wing of the social sector for a long time.
Brilliant, Shivranjani. That was great. In fact, it was great listening to you, and I think one of the soulful conversations that I have had so far. It was brilliant meeting you, and I'm sure you would be an inspiration to many of our viewers. This will at least kindle the kind of, a sense of responsibility, a sense of, I would say, service in all of the viewers. And I really hope that if not to Sura and to Kanavu, I hope that every one of us give our bit back to the society. That is, I think, the lesson that we learn from you, from talking to you now. I'm much older than you, Shivranjani, but you have really kindled that feeling in me too. Thank you for being on the show, and it was really great having you. So that was Shivranjani for all of you. For me, talking to her was very inspiring. Being much younger than me, she just kindled my soul. And now I'm still thinking, how can I give back to the society? If you did like the video, please do not forget to hit the like button, share the video as much as possible, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do subscribe. Your subscriptions are important for us. Stay tuned for our further videos. Bye bye and see you soon.